Hi everyone, welcome to our second to last session of the day. We have Jisu Kim with Feminist Press, Joanne Kenny with Getty, and Alan Reed with Springer. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the Edelweiss.
Hi, Emma. Thanks so much. Yes, okay, cool. So my name is Jisu, and I'm with the Feminist Press. For those of you that might be unfamiliar, we are an independent and nonprofit publisher founded in 1970. So this was our 50th anniversary, and it's been quite a year. Throughout our history, we've championed insurgent and marginalized voices, and today we publish a small but highly curated list of about 12 to 15 books a year. Our current catalog spans literary fiction, activist nonfiction, translations, even graphic novels and children's books. And we're distributed by consortium, so part of the Ingram Group. And the books I'd like to share with you today are, the first is the Echoing Ida collection, which comes out January 12th. So Echoing Ida is a collective of Black women and non-binary writers who, like their foremother Ida B. Wells, believe that the way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. They are journalists and they're reporters with careers rooted in the struggle for reproductive justice and trans rights, harnessing the power of media for social justice. So contributors include Raquel Willis, Renee Bracey-Sherman, Jasmine Burnett, Elizabeth Dawes-Gay, many more. The book also contains a mix of styles, personal essays, reported pieces, poetry, comics, more. I actually have a galley with me right here, and you can see there's like photographs. I don't know, maybe you can't see them there, but there are. And in some ways, this book is the spiritual sequel to our 2017 anthology, the Crunk Feminist Collection, which was edited by Brittany Cooper and Susanna Morris and Robin Boylorn. And that came out right after the inauguration of Donald Trump into the White House in 2017. This book, the Echoing Ida anthology, presents a diverse range of Black womanhood and non-binary identity, both in terms of its writers and also in topical scope. So I think readers who are interested in seeing themselves in a book or in expanding their resource base are really the ideal audience, especially in the wake of the 2020 presidential election. I think whatever the outcome of the forthcoming election, it's undeniable that race and gender, and particularly the identities of those most marginalized, will be a hot topic of conversation. So I think that the themes in this book, as well as the writers, will really be on the media forefront. The second book that I have is We Too, Essays on Sex Work and Survival, which comes out February 9th. We Too is an essay collection about violence in labor and sex work, originally conceived of in response to the Me Too movement in 2017, where conversations around harassment and violence really centered a traditional workplace. Both the editors of this book are Los Angeles-based. The contributors include well-known names in the fight for sex workers' rights, like Melissa Garrett-Grant, Lorelei Lee, Audacia Ray, and more. For others in the book, despite having huge social media followings, this will be their first instance of book publication. Just to give you a sense of kind of the grassroots appeal of this book, within days, our social media announcement of the book generated hundreds of pre-orders to our website alone, which has no discount. It's honestly rather clunky. You know, it's a publisher's website, and still people were really excited for it. The collection really seeks to be a compelling work of personal writing, and the essays taken together do work on a political level to decrease stigma. And I think that while, especially during COVID, conversations and interest in decriminalizing sex work have increased, there are really very few books on the subject. And We Too is one of the first and one of the most comprehensive. And rather than taking an academic look, it allows for both sex workers and civilians to learn more about the realities of working in the industry, as well as the structures of community and mutual aid that the workers have built to support each other. So I'll just leave off with a blurb that we received from Melissa Phoebus, who wrote Abandon Me and Whip Smart, We Too is an anthology that honors the humanity, diversity, and depth of insight within the field. Reading it makes me want to stand up and cheer. And then the last book I'd love to share is I Had a Miscarriage, which comes out March 9th. This is our lead title for the season. It's a memoir by Jessica Zucker. Dr. Zucker is an LA-based clinical psychologist specializing in women's reproductive and maternal mental health. And after working in the field for many years, she experienced her own miscarriage and then was confronted with the startling reality, which is that while 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage, it's a topic that is silenced and shamed and almost never talked about. And to fight this erasure and stigma, she began the I Had a Miscarriage hashtag campaign and started writing extensively on the subject for news outlets, appearing on television. And the book is not only about grieving and loss, it's also about Jessica's journey to build a movement around community and mutual care, centered on the idea that connection and visibility is healing. We've invested a lot of media and publicity support behind this book. We expect the author to repeat her appearances on places like Good Morning America, People Magazine. The book also features a foreword written by Lathan Thomas, who is a celebrity doula and one of Oprah's Super Soul 100. And yeah, pregnancy loss is really so much more common of an experience than most people realize. 1 in 4, again, pregnancies result in miscarriage. 1 in 100 pregnancies result in stillbirth. There aren't really statistics for pregnancies that are terminated for medical reasons or for infant loss. And so in some way, these complications affect most families. And considering all of this, it seems unbelievable how few books openly and frankly talk about this. We've already received blurbs from writers like Mira Petasin, Lori Gottlieb, Carol Gilligan, Sarah Sophie Flicker, and more. We're also confirmed to have blurbs from Jessica Valenti, Glennon Doyle, Cindy Levy, and others. And that galleys here, which is to say, before I log off, because I want to be respectful of everyone's time, I did share my contact information with Valentina, and if folks are interested in receiving hard copy galleys, in addition to those Edelweiss links, we'd be happy to send you galleys. Yeah, that's it for me.
All right. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I'm Joanne Kenny, and I'm with Getty Publications. I'm excited to be here with you today and share some of our books with you. I'll start it off with a title released in May. It was definitely one of the tradiest books that we've done in a while. Finding Dora Maar is the story about what you might output if you happen to be a journalist by trade and buy a used address book on eBay. And upon its arrival, you find that the previous owner had quite the circle of friends, like Andre Breton, Jacqueline Lamba, Paul Eluard, and Jean Cocteau. Our author eventually figured out that the address book belonged to Dora Maar. And for 2 years, Brigitte Benkemoun tried to reconstruct Dora Maar's life from 1951, the year of the address book. Not only did she discover much about this provocative, passionate, and enigmatic woman, but she also looked into the role that each of the figures in the address book played in her life. The book received a starred PW review, was reviewed by the New York Times, and many other outlets. It's a unique blend of biography, memoir, and cultural history. I'd also recommend it as a book club selection. We have a read group guide available on our website and on Edelweiss. This title's done really well for us, and I hope that if you haven't considered it yet, you will. And another spring release for us was the 25th anniversary of If by the artist Sarah Perry. This title was the first children's title that we published, and by far the highest selling children's title on the Getty list, with over 140,000 copies sold. Most of our books are available through the University of Chicago Press, but this one is available through Abrams. This title is filled with surreal possibilities and asks tough questions like, what if leaves were fish? What if cats could fly? And the one you just saw, what if toes were teeth? The reissue has 2 brand new spreads, new spot illustrations throughout, and a reader's guide. If you're not familiar with this title, I'd love you to check it out. And now on to our fall titles. I've got Imogen Cunningham, a retrospective. It's an exhibition catalog for us. Exhibition timelines are up in the air everywhere, but it's scheduled to be at the J. Paul Getty Museum as well as the Seattle Art Museum. From what I understand, it could open summer 2021 at the Getty. This book complements the first comprehensive retrospective in the United States of her work in over 35 years. We also have this as a holiday catalog selection for PNBA and CALIBA. Thoroughly researched and beautifully produced, this book celebrates the long life and career of the renowned American photographer Imogen Cunningham, who lived from 1883 to 1976. There are almost 200 photographs in this book, and several have never been published previously. The plate section is laid out in loose chronological order and demonstrates the trajectory of her career. Our curator and author, Paul Martineau, who has done a number of our best-selling photography books like Icons of Style, Robert Mapplethorpe, and Herbert's LA Style, wanted to do this project because he perceived a clear need for a well-researched and well-illustrated book to introduce Cunningham's work to a new generation. We're getting a lot of review coverage interest, and I'll leave you with a quote that I love. At 93 and a mere 2 months before her death, Cunningham replied, when an interviewer asked her to name which of her photographs was her favorite, Imogen Cunningham replied, "The one I'm going to take tomorrow." I'll note that we just pushed the pub date back on this title to October. It was stuck at the port, but we just found out the books were released yesterday, so hopefully they should be in the warehouse any day now. Another title I want to talk to you about is Mira Calligraphia Monumenta. This is a beautiful facsimile of a 16th century calligraphic manuscript. It's a hardcover and a slipcase here. It was inscribed by master calligrapher Georg Botschke and embellished by Joris Hufnagel, Europe's last great manuscript illuminator. The original is in the Getty's collection, and we like to think of it as a landmark in the cultural debate between word and image, and a remarkable product of creative rivalry between literary and visual artists. This opus has continued to be a key source of inspiration, not only to scholars, but also to graphic designers, typographers, and calligraphers. Unavailable for nearly 10 years, this gorgeous volume features over 180 color illustrations. We have some sample spreads on Edelweiss here that you can see, and I'd also recommend you to check them out on your own time. I understand that this is a very niche book with a $85 price point, but it does carry a trade discount. And I know that there are probably some accounts out there where this could be a really nice gift selection for holiday. We also have a virtual pre-pack special offer where if you buy 5, you'll get a display copy for free. And then our next guy is here, Egyptologist Notebooks, the golden age of Nile exploration in words, pictures, plans, and letters. For centuries, the beguiling ancient ruins of Egypt have provided an endless source of fascination for explorers, antiquarians, archaeologists, and the general public. All, from the very earliest travelers, were entranced by the beauty and majesty of the landscape. The remains of tombs cut into the natural rock of hillsides, and the temples and cities gently consumed by drift sand. These early adventurers were gripped by the urge to capture what they had seen in writings, sketches, paintings, and photographs, which was lucky for us. So much knowledge of Egypt has been gained thanks to the records of these early pioneers. They provided a window for us onto the world, allowing us to reach back to that golden age when there was little to know and everything to discover, and to retrace the path that they trod that led us to the understanding that we now have. This beautifully designed book with over 240 color illustrations is a visual celebration of the unending fascination with Egypt's ancient past. Reproduced in their original form, the diaries, journals, and other documents compiled provide intimate access to the archaeological discovery of Egypt, revealing as never before the contributions of female explorers, uncredited Egyptian laborers, and assistants who are often excluded from the historical record of the greatest moments of Egyptology. Our next guy is a huge doorstop, Hollywood Ahrensburg, avant-garde collecting in mid-century Los Angeles, or LA. This comprehensive reconstruction of interpretation of Walter and Louise Ahrensburg's groundbreaking collection of modern and pre-Columbian art takes readers room by room, wall by wall, object by object through the couple's Los Angeles home in which the collection was displayed. The Ahrensburgs started collecting art in 1913 in their Manhattan apartment. They gave Marcel Duchamp his first American home and presided over the salon that brought Dada to New York. And their collection expanded rapidly after their move to Los Angeles in 1921. My first house was right there on that map. or when I moved here. They bought the house featured in this book in 1927. By the end of the next 25 years, they'd acquired some 4,000 rare books and manuscripts, nearly 1,000 works of art, and hundreds of pre-Columbian objects. The Ahrensbergs have long had a central role in the histories of modernism and collecting, but images of their collection in situ have never been assembled or examined comprehensively until now. Very few of these images have ever been published. The photographs testify to the elaborate arrangement that once brought paintings, sculptures, and drawings into close contact with leather-bound volumes, exotic carpets, historic furniture, and indigenous artifacts. This was a collection that cut across periods, cultures, and media, establishing a dialogue between art and books, the European and the American, the ancient and the avant-garde. Hollywood Ahrensberg asks what can be learned by seeing these disparate materials as part of a single vision, framed by a unique domestic space at the heart of Hollywood's burgeoning artistic scene. This is another one where we're seeing a lot of interest for review coverage. So far, we've seen it in Artsy and Architectural Digest, confirmed in LA Times feature, and there should be lots more to come. And I'll end my presentation today here with a fun one. I'm sure that many of your social media feeds have featured responses to the Getty Museum Challenge. Millions saw the challenge and hundreds of thousands took part. We received many requests to capture the moment in a book, and who are we to disappoint? So now we have Off the Walls, inspired recreations of iconic artworks. This fun book is just out, and many of us on the Getty Pub staff have commented how we've seen so many of these images dozens or more times, and yet they still make us smile or laugh. And on the darker side of things, someone wrote to us saying that they will keep this book as a souvenir of COVID-19. There's a trailer on Edelweiss, which I'd love you to take a look at, and I'd be happy to share it with any of you if you could use it. We have a special retail offer for independent booksellers and museum stores on this title, so please talk to your rep for details. Thanks everyone for your time and attention. I wish you a great holiday selling season and all the best. If there's anything that I can do to help you out, please let me know and I'll do my best.
Thank you, and up next is Alan.
Well, hello, this is Alan Reed, and the modern world is not adjusting too well as my internet connection just died as I went on. So we'll struggle through this the best we can. My name is Alan Reed, and these few moments are brought to you by Springer Nature. Springer Nature is committed to the independent bookseller, and this can be seen by the current list of books that I will briefly be profiling, as well as by the background of Jenny Liu, the new trade sales manager with Springer. One of the major reasons she came to Springer was to engage independents by leveraging her knowledge of trade books, which she gained from such publishers as Workman. Our trade policies are competitive and support a publishing program committed to trade publishing with trade pricing as well. Now to the books, as I do this blindly here. Years ago, in fact, in 1966, a songwriter wrote a song, and part of the lyrics went, "The judge is badly built, and he walks on stilts. Make sure he doesn't fall on you." Well, not much has changed since the 1960s in many ways, and as we realized over the weekend, the importance of Supreme Court justices. Springer has the third volume in its series called SCOTUS, which is on the Supreme Court of the United States, and this new edition will come out in the new year, and it's the 2020 edition. And what the three volumes do is they look at the past year at the most important cases, and then they examine those cases and they look at the writings of each of the decisions, and they try to forecast what those decisions will mean for future cases. But it's a very readable book for anybody that would like to have a little bit more knowledge on the substance of some of these issues that we are dealing with. The next book is, again, a book highly current, and it is called White People and Black Lives Matter. This book is written by a woman who is a professor, and she looks at it a little bit differently. She looks at it through the philosophical, political philosophy of Western tradition. So she's examining it through Western political thought, and she examines it to see to what extent Western political thought can understand the issues of Black Lives Matter, and in what cases it cannot. And it also is a very self-reflective book, as she is now examining her own history, both philosophically and personally, and looking at how her life and her thinking and how to understand that through some of the ideas of Black Lives Matter. So it's a very engaging book about how to look at and engage Black Lives Matter, basically through a philosophical lens, even though at times she admits the philosophical lens does not lead us to as great of understanding as we might wish. The next book is a book entitled Florence Nightingale at Home. This one is at $27.99, and the other two books, which I failed to mention their prices, are reasonably priced as well. This title is somewhat ironic because the use of the word home here is to be understood as how the home was understood for many women at that time, but how that was not necessarily at all the way that Florence Nightingale understood it, because of the enormous impact that she had, not only on the battlefield, but also from her home in her writings. This book looks at over 6 million words that were in her correspondence, and the issues that she brought up in those correspondence. It's a book that some reviewers have said it is the most major contribution to her life in recent times. Then we have another title, which is called Daily Poisons, Pesticides, an Underestimated Danger. And this one is $29.95. I think when we live here in California, sometimes we can become immune to this, not in the large sense in which we all think of pesticides and the issues that they bring, but sometimes as you walk indoors, and not walk indoors, hopefully you don't do that too often, but walking into buildings, you'll notice signs that say almost every building you walk into, be careful because there's carcinogens within the building that may give you cancer. And I think that that's part of what this book tries to frame is the seriousness of pesticides, and so that we do not find ourselves becoming immune to the argument that, well, they're everywhere in any case, and there's not much we can do, and that the impact of them is not so debilitating to our health. This book takes a very serious look at the role of pesticides that is still going on in the world. The next title and is our last title, actually, and this one is called Taxing Sin. To quote the same writer that I quoted earlier, he says, "Fools, they made a mock of sin. Our loyalty they tried to win." And this is essentially what this book argues. He's arguing that that tax policies are basically making mocking our understanding of sin, and really trying to use it in a manipulative way. It looks at tobacco, marijuana, alcohol, soda, and argues against the conventional wisdom in taxing these so-called social sins. It is a really quite a different look because, of course, so much of our income in many ways is brought about by taxing on these areas of social life that at some point was considered sin, and perhaps today is not considered sin. And that book retails for $27.99. So those are just a few of the books that I wanted to highlight for Springer Nature. As I say, Springer is committed to the bookseller, the independent bookseller, through its publishing program, its pricing of its books, with its covers, and with competitive discounts. So if you would like any more information about the trade side of Springer, be sure to let me know. And we, of course, also publish the traditional side of Springer, which is the Springer math books, physics books, and many others. as well as the extremely well received computer titles under the imprint of A Press. So there's a lot out there in the world of Springer nature, and we hope that you'll take a moment to explore it and to invite us into your world so we might be able to give you a better understanding of it, and perhaps find those books that would help you in these days of trying to find a bit more revenue. So anyway, thanks so very much for your time and for your patience, and have a good rest of the day. Take care. Bye.